in? Good. That tells me something about how you move. Because the people who need an announcement before the truth shows up usually aren't ready for the truth anyway. Here's a reality that most creators don't want to say out loud. They're not tired because they're lazy. They're tired because they're building without structure. Burnout isn't a personality flaw, it's a systems failure. And if that sentence made your chest tighten a little, stay here. If it annoyed you, you probably need it more. I'm not here to motivate you today. I'm not here to hype you up. I'm not here to teach you a new tool or a new trick or a new app you'll abandon in 3 weeks. I'm here to talk about how operators think, how builders think, and how people who actually finish things think. Because the internet is full of people producing noise and calling it progress. And I do not do noise. Let me start the frame cleanly so there's no confusion. This live is not a tutorial. It's not a demo. It's not post more content dressed up in smarter words. This is about how you structure your publishing so it doesn't consume your life. Because if your business requires you to be exhausted, to be visible, it's not a business. It's a slow leak. And I'm not interested in slow leaks. Most creators are stuck in a loop that they can't name. They wake up already behind. They scroll before they've anchored their own thinking. They see 10 people doing 10 different things, and they try to keep up. They post something half-formed. They wait for feedback to decide if it was worth it, and they repeat it. That's not a workflow. That's a nervous system on fire. And the worst part, they blame themselves. They say things like, I just need more discipline. I need to be more consistent. I need to want it more. No! You need a system that doesn't rely on willpower. Because willpower is a terrible long-term strategy. Here's something people don't like hearing, but it's true. If your content strategy depends on you feeling inspired every day, it will fail. Not might fail. Not could fail. Will. Inspiration is volatile. Life is unpredictable. Energy fluctuates. Systems are what stay standing when motivation leaves the room. And that's where most people break down. They confuse effort with architecture. They try harder instead of building smarter. And let me say this cleanly, because this is the spine of everything that I build. Consistency is not an output problem. It's a structural one. You don't try to be consistent. You design for it. You remove decisions. You reduce friction. You batch thinking. And you protect your energy. That's what operators do. Creators chase momentum. And operators build machines. Now notice what I'm not doing right now. I'm not rushing. I'm not checking comments every 5 seconds. I'm not apologizing for taking space. That's not accidental. That's what it looks like when someone owns their lane. And this is important. Authority isn't volume, it's clarity. And most people think automation is about speed. It's not. Automation is about energy conservation. It's about deciding once instead of deciding it every day. And what burns people out isn't work. It's constant decision making. What should I post today? Is this good enough? Should I try this instead? Is everyone else ahead of me? That mental churn is what drains you. A system removes the churn. Here's the mental shift that changes everything. You don't wake up and ask, what should I create today? You already decided weeks ago, when you were calm, when you were clear, when you weren't reacting. That's the difference between reacting and operating. Let's talk about batching, but not the way TikTok talks about batching. Batching isn't record 10 videos in one day and hate your life. Batching is separating thinking from execution. Those are two different cognitive modes. Thinking is slow. Execution is fast. And when you mix them, everything feels heavy. So instead, you build for days, thinking, recording, publishing, reviewing, and not all at once, and not all the time. You don't cook, plate, serve, and clean simultaneously unless you want chaos. Your content is no different. This is where people resist. And I want you to notice it in yourself. They say, but I like being spontaneous. But my creativity doesn't work like that. But I don't want to feel boxed in. That's fine. But understand what you are choosing. You're choosing volatility over sustainability. And that's okay. As long as you don't pretend that burnout is a mystery. Here's a truth that might sting a little. Structure doesn't end creativity, it protects it. Chaos doesn't make you more authentic. It just makes you tired. And when your system holds the logistics, your mind is free to create. That's not a theory. That's how every serious operator works, whether they call themselves a creator or not. Now, let's talk about publishing cadence, because this is where people overcomplicate themselves into perilous. You don't need to be everywhere. You need to be reliable somewhere. Your reliability builds trust. Trust builds audience. Audience builds leverage. Posting randomly because you felt like it trains your audience to ignore you. Showing up predictably trains them to expect you. Expectation is power. Notice I didn't say post daily. I said predictable. Those are not the same thing. Consistency doesn't mean volume. It means rhythm. And rhythm is easier to maintain than intensity. Intensity burns out. Rhythm compounds. Let me pause here and say this clearly because it matters. I don't build systems for people who want shortcuts. I built systems for people who want longevity. If your goal is to spike views and disappear, this won't resonate. If your goal is to build something that still exists in a year, it will. Now, I want to talk about boundaries because this is where people give their power away without realizing it. Your audience does not get unlimited access to you. Your DMs are not a free consulting desk. Your time is not an open resource. And when people blur those lines early, they train others to undervalue them. And then they wonder why they feel resentful. Boundaries are not selfish. They're structural. They protect the system online. This is why I don't do $30 fixes. Not because I'm above anyone, but because cheap access attracts chaos. Low investment brings high demands. People who don't value their own time won't value yours either. So I gate, I filter, I design friction intentionally. That's not arrogance. That's architecture. If you're still here, you're probably noticing something. I'm not rushing to close. I'm not pitching. I'm not trying to convince. That's because people who are aligned don't need chasing. They recognize signal when they hear it. And let's talk about tools for a moment, briefly, because tools are where people love to hide. Listen closely. Tools are multipliers, not foundations. If you automate chaos, you just get faster chaos. AI won't fix a broken system. Automation won't fix unclear thinking. They amplify whatever you already built. Which means if you don't know what you're building, tools will make it worse. This is why I always start with thinking system online. Clarity first. Structure second. Tools last. And most people reverse that order. and then blame the tools. Now, I want to acknowledge the people in the room who are showing up and asking good questions, the thoughtful ones, not the frantic ones. Remnant field, symbolic operations. I see you, Wolf. KBS, I see you, Wolf. I see you, I see you. Questions usually sound like, how do you decide what matters? How do you avoid overworking? How do you stay consistent without forcing it? Those are operator questions. They're not about hacks. They're about sustainability. And sustainability is the true flex. Here's something I'll leave you with. Whether you ever work with me or not, your nervous system is part of your business. If your system keeps you in constant urgency, something is wrong. If your content strategy requires adrenaline to function, it's fragile. Strong systems feel calm, not boring, not passive, calm. Calm is a signal of control. And I'll say this once, plainly. You don't need more content. You need fewer decisions. You don't need more pressure. You need better design. And you don't need to work harder. You need to stop leaking energy. What I'm focused on right now is simple. Building systems that let people publish without burning out. Helping operators reclaim their time. Designing workflows that hold under real life, not ideal conditions. If that resonates, stay close. Watch how I move. Pay attention to the cadence. I don't chase. I build. I'm going to end this before it drags, because that's also part of a good system, knowing when to stop. This isn't about today's live. It's about what compounds after it. And if you felt grounded listening to this instead of overwhelmed, that tells you everything that you need to know. We're done here.